Hello, Pauper fans. This is Mathonical, and you're joining me for round one with some Rally Gaunt action. And our opening hand looks relatively good. Might be a little clunky, and we don't have any combo pieces, but Bodyguards with Battle Screech can win games on its own, and Faithless Looting can help us dig, so we're going to go ahead and keep this one. Let's see what our opponent is on. We've got the turn 1 Viridian Longbow. That is very unfortunate, and means we might have a hard time. It's going to be either Stompy or Elves, given that this is the kind of start that either of them would have with like a possible Viridian Longbow. And Burning Tree Emissary does tell us that we're indeed playing against Stompy. So it does look like they're going to be able to land their Longbow next turn, and what we're going to have to do is just kind of make them use it, just to get it out of the way, just to make them use a bunch of mana. It'll slow them down in the long run. And we also want to try and save our life as much as possible, so by playing the Bodyguard there, I knew they were going to ping it, which allows us to, of course, give our plant pro-green, and we only end up taking 2 damage there. In my opinion, it was what we had to do, kind of slow down their development. Here we have a few different options. We can either play another Benevolent Bodyguard, which isn't the best in my opinion, but we can definitely go with Commune with the God and try and find a Midnight Guard, which we do. So we really got to combo off to get around this Viridian Longbow, because it's going to just continually pick off of all of our creatures. So we're going to use Faithless Looting here. The reason being, if we just play the guard, we can't really block anything. It's not going to help us at all. We really want to go digging for that Presence of Gone, which we did end up finding. And we were fairly lucky in getting some relevant cards into the graveyard, like some Rally the Peasants. We have a Prismatic Strands down here. So yeah, the Faithless Looting helped us quite a bit. Discard 2 cards with Flashback, which is why it's in the deck. And here we're also going to be able to go ahead and play our Midnight Guard, and we're going to have Prismatic Strands up. At this point, things are looking pretty good, but of course if our opponent has Vines of the Vastwood, this Presence of God is not going to win us this game. And I don't want to block here either, since then we'd have to blow our Prismatic Strands. Our opponent is leaving up the 1 green, but we don't really have a ton of options here. So we're just going to go ahead and cast the... Well, we do have a couple options, and I'm hoping that our opponent will tap out if I wait one more turn, since we do have that option. Of course, by casting Battle Screech, we're not going to be able to flash it back this turn. So we're just going to kind of hope that our opponent doesn't, we know that they're playing around it. We're just going to hope that they don't continue to play around it. Going to go ahead and, since our opponent didn't poke down our bird, I'm just going to use it to block this turn, also incentivizing a regeneration. And then we're going to use the Prismatic Strands here. We can't really afford to take 8 damage this turn, and this will allow us to take some creature off the board. Can also hope that our opponent taps out. That is best. They didn't, so we're just going to go ahead and Faithless Looting. We're looking for some additional Presence of Gones. Getting the Prismatic Strands here is really good. It means we can hold that up this turn. And we're just going to discard some lands there since we are flooding out just a little bit. Coming in with just the snake, that makes sense. They're playing around Prismatic Strands now, so our opponent is playing great in this matchup. Still holding up that 1 green, so not much we can do about that. I'm going to wait till the second main phase just to see if my opponent might be F6ing. And they are indeed holding that Vines of the Vastwood, so that doesn't stick. We do have the Prismatic Strands here. Our opponent is getting in with a bunch of creatures, so we're going to go ahead and block and use the Prismatic Strands. We have to use it before combat damage is dealt, since we can't block the damage from the Eldrazi spawn finishing off a creature afterwards. So it also protects from the rest of the damage dealt that turn. Here I'm going to go ahead and get in for some damage. Got to send that message, and we're going to play the Bodyguard, knowing it's going to get pinged, and then we're going to be able to play the Soul Attendant into Cenn's Enlistment. This will give us a little bit of a life buffer and sort of strain our opponent's resources. It's going to make it less likely for them to attack. We're also going to be able to cast our Battle Screech that we have in our graveyard from that turn far, far earlier. So while things aren't looking that great, we are able to stabilize the board, at least currently. So we're going to go ahead and gain some life. Our opponent may swing in here. I'm a little surprised that they didn't, but that is fine by me. Commune with the Gods is an excellent draw, so we're going to go ahead and cast that. Let's see what we get. Well, not really much in the way of decisions here. We're just going to get a Soul's Attendant and a Cenn's Enlistment in the graveyard, so not that great. Going to go ahead and play it. Our opponent can only ping one thing at a turn, so since we have a bunch of things on the board, we're just going to go ahead and play out whatever we get at this point. Rancor does make that into a bit more of a threat, but we can go ahead and take one hit. I don't want to blow the Prismatic Strands earlier than we absolutely have to. Land means we get to flashback Cenn's Enlistment, gaining us 2 life. And we'll just start getting in for 1 damage. Why not? Never know if it ever turns into a race. We do have some Rally the Peasants in the graveyard, 2 of them to be exact. So our opponent is going to continue to play creatures here, since they did ping down all of our life gain creatures. Another Soul Sister, we're going to go ahead and cast that. I'm really curious as to what's in our opponent's hand. They're sitting on 2 cards, so very interesting. Getting in for 1 damage, there's not really much we can do about that, so we're just going to take it. Going to chip in. Faithless Looting is a nice draw, but we won't be able to do anything with that until next turn. If we cast it now, we just have to discard the cards that we draw. Our clock is getting faster, so we're going to continue to get in, and we might as well cast the Commune with the Gods first, just to see what we get, and we do end up finding a Presence of Gone, so that's what we were looking for. We're just going to go ahead and try and cast that. Does it stick? And our opponent concedes. Turns out none of those 3 cards is a Vines of the Vastwood, so that's actually rather lucky for us. That was a fairly bad start with the turn 1 longbow that can sometimes just shut down the game against us, but things worked out. They also had no Quirion Ranger. Very lucky for us. Alright, going to game number 2. Taking a look at the sideboard. Let's rearrange this a little bit. So, we definitely want to bring in the Standard Bearers, Journeys, and Oblivion Rings. We want to be able to remove their creatures. Oblivion Ring is key in trying to get rid of the Viridian Longbow. Standard Bearers are just generally good. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trim a little bit here and there with our deck. We don't need to go infinite against them, so we're going to take out 1 Presence of Gond and a Khalni Garden since we're on the play. We're also going to take out 1 Battle Screech just in case they're bringing in a Scattershot Archer or anything like that. We're going to take out 1 Cenn's Enlistment, 1 Rally the Peasants, and 1 Soul Sister. So just a general trim across the deck to bring in some very targeted cards. And let's see how it goes. So our opening hand is keepable. We would very much like a bit more lands, but hopefully this Faithless Looting will do the job for us. Nice aggressive start with the Nettle Sentinel. And here we're gonna hope that our opponent doesn't have an extra land. They don't. Alright, so let's find some lands with our Faithless Looting. That isn't what we found, and here we have a bit of a decision. Discarding, we want to discard stuff for value, for the most part. So our options are Battle Screeches, Rally, Cenn's Enlistment, and Prismatic Strands. Discarding the Prismatic Strands means we're guaranteed to be able to cast it, but leaving it in hand with 1 more land means we then get 2 activations of it, and this is an amazing card in this matchup. So we're going to go ahead and keep that. So that basically leaves us to discard 1 Battle Screech, and then our choice of either Cenn's Enlistment or Rally the Peasants. Given the current state, I'm leaning a bit more towards the Rally the Peasants. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. The Cenn's Enlistment, since we're down on lands, we would like to be able to cast it at least once to get some creatures off of that. Alright, so Quirion Ranger, they're going to start getting out many more creatures now. Still didn't get our land drop, so fairly unfortunate, although we did get 2 cards that we can play. We're going to go ahead and cast them. Opponent is getting in for 6 damage. We will go ahead and take it, and we really need to draw a land here. Our hand is amazing if we just get a land. We'd be able to cast Prismatic Strands, and we didn't get it. But from this point, if we'd drawn a land, casting Prismatic Strands on their turn to nullify the damage, then Midnight Guard into Presence of Gone would most likely win the game outside of another Vines of the Vastwood, in which case it would keep going. But that was not the case. We're still not drawing that land. We're going to take our beats, and what we're going to do, just to save some damage, we're going to block both of those, sack 1 to give it grow green, just to kind of slow down the clock a little bit. Alright, let's see what we get. And a Journey. So we are now dead on board. Not much we can do about that. Rather unfortunate that we didn't find a 3rd land in top 7 cards. But that's how it goes sometimes. So we're going to go ahead over to game number 3. And due to not finding our lands, we're just going to bring that one land back in and take out one Faithless Looting instead, because that Faithless Looting really screwed us over. Not our friend. He's gone. So, we're going to take a look at our opening hand. Not a keepable one. We're going to send this back. It would be possibly keepable if we knew there was a land on top, because Khalni Garden into a land, getting the communes would be nice, but not a reasonable keep. Once again, if there was a land on top, preferably a bounce land, this would be pretty good, but once again, not keepable. Alright, this is not a good hand, but it has 2 lands with nearly any color source. Got an Oblivion Ring, so we're just going to keep it. Soul Warden on top, we're going to go ahead and keep that, but of course we're going to have to remember that it is on top and not cycle the Ash Barrens immediately. We will be able to just cycle it on our turn to get the white source to be able to play the Soul Sister. Vault Scourge is fine. It's a bit less pressure than most other 1-drops, so we're fine with that. And this will hopefully buy us enough time to start seeing with some additional cards and some stuff like that. There's the Viridian Longbow. That's not too good, but we are able to cast a Commune with the Gods there. And we are having pretty bad luck since we didn't hit a single target. Had to put the whole thing into the bin. We do have 2 Prismatic Strands out of that list, so I guess that's going to be something. Can buy us some time. But it would have been really nice to get a creature of some sort. Another Soul Sister would have been really quite great. So we're going to take our beats, and it's kind of hard to say what we want to draw. Since our opponent got the spawn, we needed to draw a land there, otherwise they're going to be able to start pinging down our creatures, and we'd lose mana off of our encampment. Thankfully we did draw a land, Crumbling Vestige, even though it comes into play tap, still gives us mana, so we can get rid of that Viridian Longbow, and we get to stay in the game a little bit longer. That was a bit lucky. Alright. Maybe our luck is turning around, maybe? So now we need additional land for the Battle Screech. We could use a Midnight Guard to go with the Presence of God. Lots of cards would be pretty good for us. And, well, speak of the devil, we got the Midnight Guard. We're going to drop him right down. And so if our opponent has the Vines of the Vastwood, there's not going to be much we can do about that. We're going to take our beats 4 in the air. It's not a very fast clock, but it will eventually get there. Here, we're just going to go ahead and cast the Presence of God using the Soul Sister for some green mana. And it looks like our opponent does indeed have the Vines, so we're not winning this turn. We do get to buy quite a bit of time with the Prismatic Strands, so we're going to be able to play the game of just one more turn. We're going to take our beats until we absolutely need to cast it, and it looks like with another Prismatic Strands in hand, we're going to have a lot of turns to hopefully draw out of this pretty bad mulligan. Going to get the Bodyguard down just as another protection effect, and it gains a life, so this is not going to be lethal by itself next turn. Another Bodyguard, alright, we'll gain a bit more life. And so we're not going to cast any Prismatic Strands unless that is lethal, and it currently isn't, so it's all about maximizing as many turns as we can. Playing the Oblivion Ring here is really great. It's either going to get rid of the Vault Scourge or take another Vines of the Vastwood out of our opponent's hand. I expect that my opponent is holding a lot of creatures in hand. They don't want us to gain life with the Soul Warden, which may buy us more time. So they're just going to swing in. We're going to go ahead and use one of the Prismatic Strands on black. Make sure it's on black. And continue to survive a bit longer. Another Soul Sister is really nice. It means every creature is going to gain us a ton of life. Here, we're going to once again use the next Prismatic Strands on black. Keep ourselves alive a bit longer. Land, oh, perfect. Land allows us to cast the Battle Screech. So I did think about it a little bit. We may have wanted to just use the Prismatic Strands there, just to make sure that there was nothing that could have gone wrong. But the Battle Screech is going to be able to gain us 8 life. Plus, we'll have blockers to throw in front of the Vault Scourge. So 11 with 4 blockers seems like it should be good enough. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Auto-yielding to everything, of course, since we're fairly close on time at this point. Opponent is now starting to play their creatures since they aren't going to be able to win with just the Vault Scourge. And they're not going to attack with the Vault Scourge because it is going to hold back all of our birds. So, we've now reached a stalemate. Very glad we have the Viridian Longbow under the O-ring at the moment. Another Ledgewalker, alright. So our life is now quite comfortable, and another Battle Screech is pretty nice. That does give us some good air force now, and we are starting to get a full minute time advantage, so we are currently winning on the clock in case this continues to be a stalemate for a long time. So there we go. Our life total is quite nice now. No point in attacking in, since the Vault Scourge would just block one of our birds. Attacking with both of them, I did debate blocking all 8 in front, but since we don't have the Prismatic Strands, I don't really want to lose any of my birds. Consider putting one in the front of the Ledgewalker, but I don't want them to be able to cast the Hunger of the Howlpack, so instead I just take 5 damage. I'm going to get in for 3 here. I want to leave back 5 birds for blocking purposes with the Prismatic Strands. Elephant Guide on a Ledgewalker, that is fine. Surprised that my opponent's not attacking with it there. I guess they didn't want to trade it off. That's fine by me. We're going to go ahead and get back to Khalni Garden, the slowest gain to life and make a creature there is. Natural state on the O-ring. That is a little unfortunate. It means they're going to get their bow back, but we do have plenty of creatures to kind of hold things down from that. Standard Bearer is actually quite good. There is an argument that we might have wanted to hold that in hand until we drew another Presence of Gone and play both of them the same turn. But I'm just going to go ahead and cast it here and force my opponent to not really be able to choose what they're targeting with that longbow. So there we are with that. We have plenty of bodyguards to kind of keep it safe for quite some time, and the Prismatic Strands in hand, of course. So they're going to go and try and kill one of our standard bearer. We're just going to go ahead and protect it, pro green. Opponent is now getting in, so we're going to throw everything in front of this Vault Scourge. We really want this thing to die, because that will allow us to start swinging in the air. And we're going to use the Prismatic Strands to make sure we keep our birds, just so we have a nice full 8 power of flyers going. Another bodyguard to keep our standard bearer safe, and we're going to swing in. We don't mind trading 8 damage for 5 damage, because we're going to win that race. Our opponent is untapping their Sentinel, and they're going for the standard bearer again. Just as a note to everyone watching, I don't think it's the best play to be using the longbow, or to try and use the longbow activation on their turn. The reason being, if they have a Vines of the Vastwood in hand and they wait till our turn, if we went to try and cast the if we tried to cast the Presence of Gone onto our Midnight Guard and they in response tried to kill our standard bearer, we gave it pro green, they could then target our Midnight Guard with the vines. That being said, we do have a Prismatic Strands in the graveyard that would kind of bypass that whole situation, but just as a note, it also allows you to have your options open for what you're going to try and ping during my turn. But it's possible that they're going to be playing some more things afterwards, although in this case they didn't. Their standard bearer is really nice. We're going to get in for that 8 damage again and just kind of cast another standard bearer. Want to keep that effect on the board as much as possible. So things are starting to look pretty good here. Our birds are going to win it in 3 turns, the way things are currently going. Playing the green spells to untap their Nettle Sentinel. So we're just going to go ahead and let that happen. Not really much we can do about it anyways. Going to go for one of our standard bearers, that's fine. We're just going to let that one die, we have the second one here. Casting a Nest Invader, also fine. I guess our opponent has given up on the life gain difference that's starting to become apparent. They were holding all these creatures hoping that we wouldn't really be able to gain this much life. Here when they go for it, we're going to give our creature protection. Since a creature did die, they can use the Hunger the Howlpack, and they're going to go ahead and kill a bird as well, since they don't have to target the standard bearer at the moment. We're going to go ahead and take 8 damage. We're still winning this race. So we'll get in with our birds. Get them down to 15, and then we're going to cast this Commune with the Gods. Going to look for that Prison's Gone, which we did indeed find, and we were able to cast it. Looks like our opponent didn't have a response. So managed to win it. Didn't look good for most of the game, but we did manage to stabilize. I keep on saying, and I'll continue to say, Prismatic Strands in this matchup is the best. So thank you very much for watching round number 1. I will see you in round 2.